Hi, it's Dr. Shona Halson here, and I'd like to invite you to join me on the Physical Performance Show on the 24th of October, where we'll be talking all things recovery in the 3-hour live stream event. So we're going to cover essentially 4 modules around recovery. We're going to talk about the fundamentals of recovery. We're going to talk about periodization and adaptation. We're going to bust some recovery myths, and of course we're going to cover the best recovery strategy we have, which is sleep. So I'm going to go through a range of different things, talking about how we can help you pick your best recovery strategy, but also talk about some of the different aspects where there might not be a whole lot of science to really help you look at how you can use recovery to really enhance your performance.
When it comes to endurance sporting performance, today's guest on this Coach's Corner episode, Louise Delahaije, head coach of the Dutch Triathlon Federation, has got some great learnings to impart. Get set with your pen and paper for this Coach's Corner episode.
Hi, I'm Louise Delahaije. I'm a trainer and coach of a lot of athletes. I'm currently head coach of Dutch Triathlon Federation, coaching in cycling, running and triathlon. And you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by our upcoming live stream featuring Dr. Shona Halson, Recovery Essentials for Optimal Performance. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. Of course, we do this across a range of different episodes: Coach's Corners, Interest Editions, Featured Performers, and Expert Editions. And today's guest, Louise Delahaije, is a career-long coach in the endurance sporting world. As you heard at the top of the show, Louis' current coaching focus is with his role as head coach of the Dutch Triathlon Federation, where he coaches the national Dutch team and also some of the world's best triathletes, including former featured guest Richard Murray of South Africa and Rachel Klamer of the Netherlands. Louis' expertise is regularly sought out in assisting with the planet's best runners, including Kenenisa Bekele's oh-so-close run in the 2019 Berlin Marathon, whereby Louis was involved in preparing Kenenisa for that historic run. Louis' bio also includes having been the former performance manager for UCI Professional Cycling's Dutch team Lotto Jumbo, now Team Jumbo Visma. Individually, Louis currently coaches world-class cyclists, including Robert Gesink, Team Jumbo Visma rider, currently completing the 2020 Tour de France. Another star athlete from Louis' coaching ranks includes female cycling sensation Annemiek van Vleuten, 2-time world cycling time trial champion and former road world champion. And on this Coach's Corner, Louis shares some fantastic concepts, including why making mistakes can be valuable and useful in our athletic development, the key ingredients of a good coaching-athlete relationship, the prescription of exercise and work, and why there's so much merit, as Louis outlines, in prescribing the feeling, the perception of effort, versus relying purely on objective data, such as pace or watts, for example. There's some terrific tips that Louis shares around tapering and why the key ingredient is ensuring that the athlete feels good and is happy. Strength and conditioning, nutrition, dealing with injury, and so much more is coming your way. So get your pen and paper ready for the learnings from the head coach of the Dutch Triathlon Federation, Louise Delahaije. Louise Delahaije, welcome to the Physical Performance Show. What a year we find ourselves in, 2020.
Yeah, it's a very special year, you can say. Yeah.
Louis, we first connected in person circa 2018, I think, at Mallorca at a Super League triathlon event where you were there with several of your athletes, Rachel Klamer, Richard Murray. I was immediately impressed with your coaching bio, as I outlined at the top of the show. But let's just get a little bit of a context here, Louis, in how you found yourself in this line of work as an elite sports coach. Your background, I believe you had a triathlon background yourself.
Yeah, I used to be a runner when I was like 15 years old. Well, I played handball till I think probably my 12 or something like that. Then I switched to table tennis. And then when I was 15, I started running. And, well, I'm still a runner. And then when I was 18 or 19, I switched to triathlon, had a triathlon career. I found out in university that I was not good enough. I tried for 1 year to be, let's say, more or less professional. And I found out my engine was not big enough. And actually pretty young, I was 21, I started coaching runners, mainly runners. And I was coach of a very regional athletic club when I was 22 probably. And there were some triathletes, very young girls and guys, probably 15, 16 years old. And I started working with them, first only running, then running, swimming, running, biking, and then together with a friend of mine, Guido van Weert. And then, well, we made up the whole program. And from there, my career really started, because in that group, there were a lot of talents. Maybe you remember a guy like Ralph Zeetzen. He was like, I think, 7-time European champion. He was third in the World Championships in the juniors in Perth in 97. But that gave me the opportunity and the possibility to become a national team coach in the Netherlands, first in the juniors, I think, in 93 or 94. And from there, I became an elite coach. But I also was interested in cycling. And then I got the opportunity in 96 to work with juniors in the Rabobank cycling team, which started in 96. Yeah, from there it got bigger and bigger in triathlon, in running, but also after that in cycling. So I coached in triathlon till the Olympics in 2000. And for the Dutch national team, then I switched to Germany, where I was a national coach till 2006. And then I got the opportunity to work with the Rabobank professional team, which later became Blanco, Belkin, and now Jumbo Visma. And I did that for like 12 years or more. Wow. So that's in a nutshell my career. And after, I think, 2015, I came back into triathlon, first really small and part-time. But yeah, it got bigger and bigger. And the last 3 years is more or less full-time. Yeah.
So much. And it's fascinating to speak with a career coach, from 21 years of age when people are starting careers, and you've seen this right through. And this show, Louis, is all about highs, lows and learnings for predominantly the endurance sporting community. So you've got so much to draw on from not only triathlon, like you outlined, with your national roles for Germany, Netherlands, but then also, as you've outlined there, your many, many years at the highest of high levels in world in professional cycling. I remember the Rabobank team, I believe Robbie McEwen, our Australian export, was flying the Rabobank colours. Who could forget? And having some great success. So you would have spent some time with Robbie. He was part of the team. He actually won the Champs-Élysées stage for Rabobank in the Tour de France. Yeah. And you were on the Champs-Élysées at that point, Louis. It must have been very exciting.
No. At that time, I was working only with the junior team. It was before 2000 probably when Robbie won that stage. But I actually worked with quite a lot of Australian riders. And the first one was actually someone who probably speaks better Dutch than I do, because I have an accent. I live in the south and we have a very strong accent. But Matthew Heyman, you probably know him. Yeah. He was the first Australian rider I worked with. And after that, Graham Brown, Mark Renshaw, William Walker, quite a lot of guys I work with.
Yeah, wow. So, and Louis, at the moment, you've got one of your athletes racing at the moment in the Tour de France, Robert Gesink at the moment. So it's, as we record this, today is the fourth stage. What does a coach's role look like through the Tour de France?
I mean, for Robert at this moment, this week I talked to him and we realized it's the 15th year we're working together. I know him already as a very young amateur, and all the time, we work together. So, and he had a very special careers with some really nice highs, but also a lot of lows on a personal level. And then you become more and more a coach and less a trainer. So he gets his training program at this moment from the team, and that is very good. It was also a nice change for him after such a long time. But you still are a friend and coach. So what you do in the Tour is, every day is different. It's like yesterday, just a boring day. Just get to the finish line and stay out of trouble. And today it's a mountain stage with a hilltop finish, which for him means that he will work till, let's say, maybe 4 kilometers from the top. And then Primož and Tom Dumoulin, they will have to do their thing. And you have some good days, some bad days. And you help them to put things into perspective, more or less.
You said that you're more of a coach and less of a trainer. What's your definition of a coach, Louis?
For me, trainer is like a carpenter or a plumber. That is something, it's there are rules for training. How do I make a training program, etc., etc. So that is something you can learn. Coaching you also can learn, of course, but coaching is more put the things in a context. 2-hour cycling, for me, is not 2-hour cycling. If done at sea level or altitude in 30 degrees or 10 degrees, on a hard course or an easy course, things like that. And I think the coaching part is okay, you did your training, and actually my work as a coach starts then, because you evaluate the training with your athlete. And that is for me the coaching part, which for me became more and more important. Let's say in the beginning of my trainer career, I wanted to know everything about training, and I still do. I still read a lot about nutrition, training, strength and conditioning, all the stuff. But that's more or less the easy part. In the beginning of my trainer career, I put a lot of energy in getting knowledge, more or less. And then later on, I became, next to the trainership, I became more or less a coach, where it's about, you're dealing with humans. And sometimes you are physically in a perfect shape, but because something happened in your private life, it's still almost impossible to perform. Okay, then I have to adapt. And then physiology and psychology, you cannot take them apart. It's one person.
Dealing with a human, as you say there, Louis, and what would be your top, say, 3 attributes of a good coach? What do you think makes a good coach in terms of attributes? Obviously, as you said, dealing with them as a human, the athlete, that is.
For me, it's very important, especially nowadays where we can measure almost everything. And what I saw also during my career, more and more equipment came, and more precise a training schedule became. Let's give an example. Today they have to bike for 3 hours, and then the first half hour must be at 210 watts with a cadence of 90, and then they have to do 5 times 6 minutes, and with the first 15 seconds on this and that. So very precise. I'm not a coach like that. I don't do that. Obviously, they get a program with HIIT sessions and everything. But what I try to develop with the athlete is a feeling. How hard does this feel? How hard can I go for 4 minutes without blowing up and without going too slow? And I try, when I start working with an athlete, whether it's a cyclist, a runner, or a triathlete, and some of them have it from themselves, but I see a lot of them who don't have that, is try to develop a feeling. If you want to be a good time trialist, actually a good time trialist is somebody who in the 30 kilometers time trial passes the finish line and you hear the last drop of energy getting out of the tank. That's not possible when I tell you, okay, you go 30 kilometers now at 395 watts. It's not possible because every day is different. So what I have to learn them is what can you do for 30 kilometers? So as an example, translated to training, I will teach somebody to do, let's say, 4 by 8 minutes HIIT session with a certain recovery, let's say 4 minutes. And then I tell them, okay, we go 4 by 8 as fast as possible. But the last 8 minutes has to be the same power as the first 8 minutes. And you're not allowed to watch on your power meter. We can look at that afterwards. And then what you will see the first time is, if it's somebody who's the more aggressive type, they go too fast. So they blow up. So the first one is, let's say, 350 or 400, depending on the level somebody has. And then the second one is maybe also that level, but the third is less, and the fourth is completely blown up. It's only 280 watts. So he made a mistake, but that's what I call a very good mistake, because that is a mistake which gives you a lot of information. The information that with this, when I start with that feeling, I don't get to the finish line. So next time they're a little bit scared. So what do? They start at an intensity that's maybe a little bit low. What you see then is that the last 8 minutes, it's much higher power than the first 3. That's also a mistake. They go off too slow. But still, it's a good mistake. You learn a lot. Mistakes are information. So by doing this with different programs over a certain time, they exactly learn with which feeling they can do this 30 kilometers or 20 kilometers or 10-kilometer run or whatever. And I think that is important, because this information about feeling makes the athlete successful. At least get the maximum out of their possibilities.
So the real overarching theme here, Louis, is the importance of an athlete being able to determine their perception of effort versus relying on objective data or tools, which in this current era of training, very accessible. And to practically do this, and there's 2 things you just said there that I think really jump out, that I'm sure will jump out to listeners of the show. One is that mistakes can be good, and that mistakes are information. So
it's very good to make mistakes, but the same mistake only once. And then I hope they make a lot of mistakes, because with every mistake you get better. Only once.
As a prior guest of the show on an expert edition, Dr. Stephen Siler shared with the high-intensity interval sessions, don't fly and die. Try and maintain power.
Yeah.
Louis, practically with trying to engender this ability for the athlete to regulate their intensity through things like high-intensity interval training, HIIT training, what tools do you use? I know we're not talking about objective data per se, but I've heard you reference, using a perception of effort scale. So is that something you'd get an athlete to try and check in after every session? And
ideally, they fill it in after every session, yes. But on the one side, I also use all the objective data I can get, but that's easy to get. You finish your session and I can see it. I can see the cadence, I can see the power, I can see the heart rate, etc., etc. So I don't have to ask the athlete this information. I can see it. I can see it in our case, I work with Training Peaks. I can see it. But the other information, which for me is as valuable, is how did it feel? How did it go? Now one will say I had heavy legs, or my breathing was a problem, or I had pain in my back, or whatever. And this information, together with the objective information from your computer, that will give me a complete image of what happened that day. And based on that, we can decide, okay, we are continuing tomorrow according to plan, or we have to adjust. And that makes it interesting. For me, that the most beautiful thing about my job is that you work together with somebody. I mean, I cannot run a fast marathon. I cannot go fast on the bike or swim. Otherwise, I would have done it myself. But I can do it together with somebody. And I can help somebody, but the athlete has to help me as well. And again, with objective data, it's easy. If you upload, I get all the information, but you also have to open up. So normally I invest a lot in building a good relationship, an open relationship with the athlete, because then I probably get better and more information.
And to build that relationship, is it just time and contact and communication both ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it costs, I mean, it depends. With some athletes it costs a little bit more time. Some people you really click with from maybe the first minute, but I think you have to invest in it from my side mainly, but also from the side of the athlete. I mean, nowadays it's easier for me because a lot of athletes come to me and ask me to coach them. Then I don't have to go over the hurdle to prove that I'm a good coach or whatever. So because they know. But in the beginning of my career, you always have to take the hurdle because they don't know you.
Yeah, and obviously having been a career coach with incredible experiences to date and runs on the board, it's a hurdle you no longer have to cover. Do you feel, Louis, there's been a downward trend in athletes in the modern training era, generally speaking, an ability for them to understand their intensity efforts and self-regulate their pace based on the fact that there's so much objective data? I recall as a junior triathlete in the 90s.
That's
not having GPS at our fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, when I started working in cycling and with Rabobank, there was no power meter. I think after 2 or 3 years, the first SRM came and but we didn't know what we were looking at. We didn't know what 300 or 400 was. At least I didn't know. And because, you saw something and you had to struggle and a fight to get that SRM in a race. So you got some data. Okay, what do they need? And I mean, now there is so much data available. Yeah, we know exactly what you have to do, but in that time you didn't have. So people had to follow their feeling because speed doesn't mean anything. With the tailwind or a front wind, 40 kilometers is a completely different effort. Now, and I think that's also we as coaches, we make the mistake sometimes to go too much on objective data. So again, I'm not telling them if they have to go for a 2-hour bike or a 1-hour run, exactly what speed they should do, even not the heart rate. I give them a feeling, hey, today should be easy.
So you won't prescribe the zone or the...
No, in my training schedule, you will never find a power value. Never.
Wow. Yeah. So you prescribe the feeling. So that practically...
I say, okay, today is a 1-hour run, easy.
And then the athlete just regulates.
In the end, I think it's too fast because I see the heart rate going up too high or just I see that this speed cannot be easy. Then I have a discussion with the athlete. But it's actually intensity zones for me are quite simple. I have an easy zone, which is endurance. Then I have a tempo endurance zone, and I have that already for like 25 years. And tempo endurance is the pace you can run in a marathon, or you can bike almost in an Ironman. Then there is, let's say, in the polarized approach, then there is nothing, because tempo endurance is the end of your aerobic zone. Mm-hmm. So in the Seiler model, zone number 1, and then we skip, and then we go to high intensity session, and that is fast as possible. So then you don't need power values. I need the power values after the session to see, hey, how good was this effort? Or let's give the example again of the 4x8 minutes. Was it evenly paced? That is very valuable information, because based on that, you can have a discussion with your athlete. And maybe you went a little bit fast or a little bit slow, that is interesting. But I never say, okay, 4x8 minutes you have to do on 360 watts. I will never say that.
Gosh, that's fascinating. Prescribed feelings, the 3 zones: easy endurance, tempo endurance, which is the high end of that aerobic zone, or zone 1, if you like, in the polarized approach, and then high intensity, which is obviously as fast as possible. And you mentioned the polarized training approach, which listeners of this show, Louis, are very well versed in through Dr. Stephen Seiler's share-ins. Is that something that you will set out to try and attain, or it just happens by default with the prescription of the program?
It happens by the description of the program, but also I think the top athletes are going this direction. Mm-hmm. It's very funny because probably the guy I learned from the most is Jean Janssen. He was in the university, and he also coached top cyclists and runners. And we are talking about like 25, almost 30 years ago, and he was not talking about polarized, and he said people have to train black and white, and black and white was easy or hard. But he got destroyed because he said this, because in that period of time, it was a time of Conconi, and it was all about threshold training. So, and then there was this guy who said, yeah, you have to train black and white. It has to be easy or hard, not in between. At that moment of time, I was in the threshold group because everybody was in the threshold group. But he was already saying that this guy is now 72, and once in a while we have contact or go for dinner. And still, every time I learn a lot.
Wow.
Because every time when I come back home from a dinner, I feel stupid. Because this guy, also based on feeling, he knows so much, but he was polarized 30 years ago.
Wow.
But again, he got destroyed for it because everybody said this guy is really stupid. Nobody trains polarized or zwart-wit and black and white. Because you have to do threshold. Every scientific research says you have to train on the threshold as much as possible.
Gosh, well,
you got it right.
I grew up in the 90s training threshold, Louis. It was all sitting on that limit.
Yeah, of course. Yes. And I did it as well. I apologize to all the athletes.
Maybe that's why
he was right, and he did that with a lot of things. He was right. He was originally a biochemist, and he was working in human biology. He was. Some people are just amazing, and you need the luck that you meet these people. And I was very lucky to meet him and some other people who were just brilliant.
Yeah, wow. And you looking at your Instagram gallery and having connected with you in person over the last several years at triathlon events, I know you're an avid reader, an avid learner, committed to that lifelong. On your Instagram gallery, Louis, you have some book covers, and each of them are fantastic publications in and of themselves. But is there one book you've read on human performance in the last little while that's really stood out to you and has influenced how you coach or view human performance?
Well, maybe it's not directly human performance, but in the Corona period, there are two books where I can say still influence me. The first one is the guy, Alois Mader, you probably know, from Energy Systems. He's a German professor, and he wrote a book in 2015, and I immediately bought it, started it, and threw it away. Because after 10 pages of 300 pages, he lost me. I didn't understand the word. And that is not because I don't speak German, because I speak German okay. But yeah, it was too complicated for me. And you're always in like a flow of going from training camp to race, etc. And I just throw it away. And then Corona came. So I took the book again, and I was sitting quite relaxed. And I finished the book. Actually, I finished it 2 or 3 times. And I'm very weak in chemistry, and there's a lot of chemistry in the book. But yeah, there were so many interesting things about training in it, especially the role of, let's say, endurance training and why you don't need so much high-intensity training, something I already did, but now it was easier for me to explain it to the athletes. So Alois Mader, and it's in German. And the second book, is Anti-Fragile from Nassim Taleb, and I think also that book I read recently in the Corona period, actually quite at the beginning, and that is also an eye-opener, not only because of the end, but for example the good mistakes story that's also in that book. So there is a lot of things that is very easy to use in sports. And because I think a lot of world-class athletes are anti-fragile. Some of them literally crashed and got better out of it.
Some of them literally crashed and got better out of it. So they're anti-fragile in the sense that they face adversity and then they come back.
A nice example is Annemiek van Vleuten.
One of your athletes?
Yeah, I work with her for 8 years now. Mm-hmm. And she was a classic rider. Quite good, but not by far not the best. And at one point in time, I think it was 2013, she said, I also want to be a climber and a big tour rider. Say, what do I have to do? And then we made like a 3, 4, 5 year plan to achieve that, because we thought, she needs more volume. Actually, we throw strength training out because she builds muscle mass quite easy. So by that, without losing to fat mass, she got lighter and she got better and better. And she was getting closer to men's training year by year. And then in 2016, she felt she got better. And then there was the Olympics. She was in the first position. Actually, she was leading by 40 seconds, 10 kilometers to go. It would have easy way to the finish, Olympic gold. And then she crashed. A lot of people remember that crash because it was, she was out for 20 minutes. Got to the hospital. Yeah, okay. And then you think somebody loses an Olympic, a certain Olympic gold medal, but actually she got even better by that because she realized in the days and weeks after that for the first time in her life, she had this incredible level. She said, if I can do it last weekend in the Olympics, maybe I can get even better than this. And she got better by the crash. Of course, she would have liked to win that gold medal, but she was not in grief because of losing the gold medal. But she said, hey, I did something really special in my heart. Maybe I won the Olympics. I don't have the medal. And that is what I mean with anti-fragile. She got better, not by crashing in itself, because you have to look at it a little bit figuratively, but she got better by the experience. Okay, that was a very bad experience, but she realized what I did today was really special, and I take that with me in the future. She became the best female rider of the moment. In a very special way, she does things nobody else does. I think that was born that day, and that's anti-fragile. Yeah.
Two world road titles to a name and 2 world time trial titles to a name as well.
Yeah.
Louis, you just mentioned there that through reading the first book you cited that you were able to explain to athletes why they didn't need as much high-intensity training as they might perceive. So how do you explain that to an athlete that may be caught up in the idea that they need to be doing more high-intensity work?
If an athlete comes to you as a coach and you ask, okay, what's the next step or what we have to work on, he will always use the word speed. I need to get faster. But actually, what they say is speed, for me, is maybe more endurance. And it's very easy to explain, like in a cycling race. We have a cycling race. Actually, it passes by my house, Amstel Gold Race. It's the biggest race in Holland. It's a World Tour Classic, and it's 250K. And by the time I had discussions about it, the finish was on the Kouberg. That's a climb. It's 1 kilometer climb, steep. And there's the finish. So we had a discussion. The riders needed more speed. Then I say, okay, let's take 1 minute. For 1 minute, this rider could do 850 watts. But in the race, he did only 690. So do you need more speed or you need more endurance to get closer to the 850 watts you can do? That's the discussion. And in my philosophy, I think you need more endurance. If you can do 850, that's enough to win that race. But probably you were too tired beginning at the last climb, so you couldn't do, it's obvious after 250K that you cannot do 850, but maybe 750 or 780. Gilbert did it. So does he win because he has a very high anaerobic power? I don't believe so.
Because he slows down the least.
Yeah.
Is that building the machine?
Does that mean that you don't need head training? No, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Only I say, like in the polarized medal, you don't need that much.
You're listening to Louise Delahaije, head coach of the Dutch Triathlon Federation, on this, a Coach's Corner episode of the Physical Performance Show. Support for today's show comes from our upcoming live stream featuring none other than world-leading scientist on all things athletic recovery, Dr. Shona Halson. Dr. Halson has been a former guest of the Physical Performance Show, whose episode is one of the most downloaded in the history of the show, episode 190. During the live stream, Dr. Halson will cover 4 key modules: fundamentals of recovery, recovery periodization and adaptation, sleep science, optimization and essentials, along with busting some recovery science myths. There's a bonus Q&A session, and all participants of the webinar receive a post-event recording, all for just $49 with a true leader globally in this space, Dr. Shona Halson. To register, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/Dr. Shona Halson. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest, Louise Delahaije, head coach of Dutch Triathlon. On this, a Coach's Corner, exploring all things endurance training. Louis, there's a slide from one of the presentations you've presented around the world, and it's the attributes of an athlete, the top attributes of an athlete. You outline talent, motivation, discipline, and obviously the training component. The talent side of things in your role across cycling, athletics, as an advisor to global and triathlon, of course, with some of the sport's true stars. Talent, how much of a role does that play, Louis? I mean, it's evident that to reach the pinnacle of sporting success or to maximise our potential, there's a level of talent that we need, that an athlete needs. But you must have some stories of people that, like you mentioned, your female cyclist, Anamijk, that weren't necessarily the most extraordinary talented, that have worked hard and combined that with good principles.
I think you need the talent to adapt to training.
You need talent to adapt to training.
So and then you can progress steadily. So that is the first one. And I think you need also the mental talent. I mean, it's always spoken about physical talent, but also mentally, you have to be talented. And to deal with, sometimes the boredom of just 6 hours on a bike or a long run or training every day in and out. To deal with that, you need strong motivation. But you need also the mental talent also to be focused. There's a lot of things you can learn, but it's with training is the same. Even if you have a world talent, maybe I'm potentially the best billiard player in the world, but I have all the talent for it. But I'm not playing billiard. I'm not training every day. The same is true for swimming, biking, running. Okay, potentially you have the talent and then you start working, but you need the talent to adapt to training on the one side. But also mentally, if you're not working on it, you have maybe the talent to be mentally strong and to be focused and to deal with the setback, etc. But you have to work, you have to develop it. So there's a lot of talents out there. But I always said in the past, there is more talents on the side of the road as a spectator than is in the race. Only they don't know it.
Challenging thought. Particularly if you are.
Don't start, Brad. Don't start training again.
No, that's not what I was thinking. Louis, practically a few key practical things. I know you're a student, or have been at one point there, of heart rate variability. Is that something that you get data around, you value, you don't? What are your thoughts on heart rate variability?
We did a very interesting project with a student from the University of Leuven in Belgium, and he was 3 months at our training center of the triathlon in Sittard. And before that, we used like heart rate variability once in a while. What this guy did very well is motivate athletes to do it every day. So we had a small group of athletes who did it every day. That's 3 years ago, I think. So we have a lot of data now. Then Marco Altini came and he said, I want to do some research on altitude camps also with this athlete. So we had, for example, altitude camp in Namibia, in Windhoek, and he gathered the data, and then it got really interesting. So what I think heart rate variability is very good to analyze training after a camp or after a training period, but also it's one extra information point. You have your hard data, you speak with the athlete, and sometimes you have to decide, maybe continue or maybe we take an extra day of rest. And then heart rate variability can give me a push in the right direction. That is how we use it now. What is very interesting in our training center is we have young athletes who also have to go to school or university. And you can see the difference when they're on a training camp with us without any worries, or they have to combine school and training. And you can see that in heart rate variability. So it's very interesting, and I think measurements get better and better.
But it's used as an adjunct as opposed to the primary tool.
Yeah. I'm not deciding anything on heart rate variability alone. No.
Noted. Louis, 7-day or 10-day cycles. I know Dr. Stephen Seiler has referred to 10-day cycling on occasions, or quite often, I should say. What are your thoughts around what might work best?
Yeah, I work with a lot of cycles, from 3-day cycles to 10 or 12-day cycles. depending on what the goal is. And for example, we are preparing now for Hamburg World Championships, and somebody who needs a big taper, maybe he gets a 8-day cycle for tapering, or 9-day. And somebody who has to train more and doesn't like the rest, he has maybe a 4-day cycle. Same for training. It depends a little bit on what type of athlete you are. Are you more like, let's say, make it easy, the more anaerobic type, or you're the mixed type, or you're the really endurance type? That's one part of the discussion. The other part of the discussion is the question, what do I want to put in a cycle? A cycle for me is something, okay, everything that I have in my head has to fit in the cycle. When I have done all these things, the cycle is ready.
So it's not arbitrarily set by a date in the diary, or
no,
it's set by.
If I say with a cycle, I work in week cycles, because I plan always for 1 week of training. But is that a cycle? No, it is not. You can also say my cycle is as long as a period till we need some rest. Yeah, that can be 2 weeks, 1 week. That can also be 3 weeks. And so for me, it's a non-discussion. I know what I want to do in a week or in 10 days. And I know, for example, let's say in what I call the fitness phase, the building up phase, there is some ingredients I want to do in it. There has to be enough volume. So there has to be easy runs, bikes, swims. Then I want to do some sprints in it, because I very much believe in neuromuscular work. And that's, for me, that's sprinting in all 3 disciplines. I want to do some tempo endurance work. And from that, and then next to that, you have some things. If you don't do them for too long, your body doesn't know how to do it anymore. Let's say anaerobic lactic things, but only a little bit. So then I say, okay, one time every 12 days, I need that stimulus. Okay, then I have 12 days and I do that once, and I then do 1 VO2 max stimulus in 1 and 12 days. Okay, then my cycle is 12 days.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You mentioned the 3 types of, I presume, athlete: anaerobic, mixed, or endurance type. Is that how you view an athlete? As in that,
I mean, that is very important, because I think that means something for your taper, but also from what I put into a training. And also there we learned a lot from the Corona period, because there were no races. So we kept training and training and training. We could try some things. And then athletes saw, hey, we didn't do 1 track session and I'm running like hell. How come? That's an interesting one, that you can run. I mean, Richard Murray posted a lot, but he ran like a 13:37 5K and a 7:58 or 9 at 3K. If you look at his training program, he said it's not possible, because he did nothing more than tempo endurance running. How come? Yeah, that comes because he is a faster type. But if you are a typical endurance type, you don't get away with this idea. So you need a little bit more on the other side. So do some track sessions. So it's very interesting to find out on what side you are. Well, I see, and the most athletes you coach are more or less a mixed type. So you go any direction. It's not that black and white. But if you are the anaerobic type, or the real endurance type, the long distance type, this means something. Then you have to plan a different training. And what is nice, I'm working together with the University in Maastricht on a DNA project, sports DNA. And we did like 20 or 25 tests now. And it's very interesting to see, especially what we are talking about now, that the people you think about, these are the really fast guys or girls, you can see it in their DNA. It's not a coincidence.
Wow. And MRI imaging, there's now the ability to muscle fiber type through MRI.
Yeah.
So these tools combined with an astute coach's observations, I guess, can really add a lot.
Yeah. No, for example, I had a very interesting project after the Beijing Olympic, because Theo Bos, he was an Olympic medalist in the sprint on the track, cycling. And I coached these guys as his junior. And then in Beijing, he came to me and said, I want to make a switch to the road. I said, whoa. And he was a real sprinter. I mean, a 200-meter sprinter on the track, 10 seconds. That was his thing. So we had to make a road cyclist of him. But he got so much anaerobic power from his sprinting. I said, okay, what we do is you only go for a ride. Every day you go for a ride. And we make it like we start with 2 hours and we build it up to 6 hours. And then we go and do races and sprint. And the funny thing there was, we did that for more or less a year. He won races. He became a successful professional. He even won races in the World Tour. The funny thing was, he improved. We did, and what we did is endurance ride, tempo endurance and sprints. Nothing more. And he could follow the peloton. He got better and better. And then I was really curious because at one point in time, he had the world record of a 200 meter on the track. I think it was just before the Olympics in Athens. They always did tests like a standing start, 1 lap on the track, etc. Say, I want you to do this test after 1 year of riding on the road, because I thought the difference is huge. It was not. It was tenths of a second. So I was amazed by 1 year of just riding.
Wow.
How much he lost. It was not much. It was a little bit.
And it really, it outlines this great dichotomy of trying to identify athletes as anaerobic, mixed or endurance types, as you say, but also the power of building that anaerobic machinery. If you've got that raw speed, that raw ability with the speed. And the further example of that being, for example, the Richard Murray example of the 13:37 5K off basically no prescribed speed work.
I think he didn't run faster than a 320 kilometer.
Wow. Louis, and I recall Richard's caption, and Richard has been a prior featured guest of this show and finished 4th at the 2016 Olympic Games after coming back from a fractured collarbone. Quite the performance, just a matter of weeks, really a couple of months beforehand. But I recall Richard's surprise on his Instagram caption. It was, "I can't believe this. I wouldn't expect this." Louis, let's play a game of one tip. So I'm going to ask Coach Louis for the top tip around these themes. So this is going to be difficult for a man of so many experiences. But what's Coach Louis' top tip around recovery for athletes, endurance athletes in general?
I would say don't try to speed it up.
Don't try to speed it up.
I say that because in the past, when I started being a coach or trainer, we did everything to recover as fast as possible to get the next session in. So we took antioxidants, ice baths, all that kind of stuff. But now I just look at adaptation. It's not how much I can train, but how much I need to get the adaptation. So don't try to speed it up. The process is the process.
Don't try and speed the process up. It's not how much you can do. It's how well you adapt to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or as your colleague, Joel Filiol, coach of the Italian National Triathlon Federation and his own private squad, outlined the law of minimal effective dose.
Joel put it perfectly, I think. Yeah.
And you've just seconded that. Top tip, Louis, around tapering. You've mentioned tapering there, identifying the type of athlete and customizing their taper. But what's a general principle that you think more athletes could benefit from? No,
if you look at the general taper, I go to more or less 60-70% of volume. Keep intensity in, but also the volume in the intensity training, I go to, let's say, 50-60%. And very individual on, how many days you need. Some people are fresh in 3 or 4 days, and some people need like 8 to 10 days. And actually, this is one of the interesting parts of what I do, is to find out what's the ideal taper. And also there you need the objective data, but also the feeling of the athletes. If the athlete feels good and happy, it will work. But you can think of the most sensational, fantastic physiological taper. But if the athlete doesn't feel great, the performance will be poor.
You're listening to Louis Delahaije, head coach of Dutch Triathlon, on this A Coach's Corner episode. If you missed last week's episode, it featured UK-based sports scientist, co-founder of Precision Hydration, Andy Blow, on all things hydration science. What an important topic in helping the listeners of this show perform at their physical best. Here's a little snippet of my conversation with Andy Blow.
The sweat rate's probably the easiest one that people can do themselves, because to get an estimate of your sweat rate, you can easily weigh yourself before and after a training session or even a race if you've got the capacity to, and look at the difference in weight. And fundamentally, the amount of weight that you've lost will be very similar to the amount of fluid that you've lost. So for every litre of fluid you lose in sweat, you'll lose about 1 kilo of body weight. Obviously, if you drink something during that session, you just have to note that down and then subtract that from the answer.
To enjoy the full episode, be sure to jump over episode 234 from wherever it is that you enjoy your podcast from. And whilst there, peruse the archives dating right back to episode 1, featuring surf lifesaving Ironman champion Ali Day. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest, Louise Delahaije, head coach of the Dutch Triathlon team, on all things endurance training. Top tip for the off-season? I mean, this is a tough question, but, what matters in an off-season, Louis?
Go to a museum.
Switch off.
Yeah, switch off. Do something different.
Go to a museum. Your Instagram.
Take care of yourself. Switch off. Yeah.
Your Instagram gallery.
After that 3-week period, the hunger must be back. Otherwise, you did something wrong.
Okay.
That's different for everybody. Some people really like laying on the beach. Go to the beach. But if you are more a little bit active type, I was walking for 3 weeks in Nepal around the 8,000 meter mountain last year. Also, physiological, you don't need an off season, in my opinion. But psychologically, you need an off season to get fresh again, to put all the effort in again.
It's so interesting. So psychologically, you feel, athletes need it, but physiologically that they'd be able to adapt and continue.
I think you can, if you take it a little bit wave-like, 3 weeks of training, 1 week of easy training, and you continue that, you can do that, I will not say forever, but a really long time.
Yeah.
But the mental effort you have to put in, that's why you need a break, because it's not possible to go 2 years in a row continuously following your goals. I think off-season is important to step back, relax, maybe think about new goals or a new approach or whatever. Looking at yourself from a certain distance, that's what you need the off-season for, in my opinion.
So rich. Louis, top tip for dealing with injury?
And the nice thing is, when I came back into to triathlon, also the injuries came back. In cycling, probably in 10 or 12 years, I didn't see any injury except for crashes. The only injuries you see is crashes.
Yeah.
And then maybe once every 3 or 4 years, you see a knee injury or something like that, but nothing too bad. In my opinion, first of all, even if you have an injury, look for alternatives. What can I do to stay fit? Otherwise, your way back will be much longer. I have a very nice example now of a world-class runner, actually, who got his fibula fractured. He got hit by a motor. We put him on the bike. He is a Kenyan runner. He never was on a bike, and actually he likes it now, and he feels and now he is running again after 7 or 8 weeks. He said, it's incredible. It's like I never stopped running. He feels really fit and fresh, and he likes biking. So look for alternatives. How do you say it? What's impossible to do? Running, for example, but look at what you can do. I have one mountain bike, a girl I coach, and she got hit by a tree when she was in a downhill with a really serious injury. She is swimming, and she stays fit by swimming. So always look in alternatives.
It's fascinating watching elite runners or hearing of elite runners, world-class runners. And I know the runner you're referring to there. And when you hear them riding a bike, it's almost hard to even conceptualize, given that there are,
he couldn't ride a bike, so we put him on a tux, on a stationary bike. He couldn't bike, but yeah, we built it up, and now he's riding 2 times a day for 1 hour on a bike. And actually says, we are planning now, together with his coach, Patrick Sang, to integrate cycling in his program before his next marathon. Wow. Interesting.
That is very interesting.
For that, you need that the athlete is open, but also the coach needs to be open.
Yeah,
I'm a runner, and especially in running, a lot of injuries happen.
Yep.
But then they cannot run and they don't do anything. Well, I think you can do a lot even if you cannot run. And if it's your job, I mean, it's not too much asked to keep yourself very busy a couple of hours a day.
I know of an Australian female Olympic runner who suffered a bone stress injury, and across the winter here in Australia, she was down at the local ocean pool, water running for an hour in very cold water with freezing winds. See that daily.
I have a very nice example of Marianne Vos. I mean, she is the greatest of all time in women's cycling. And she had an injury in the winter with the arteria femoralis. So she had an operation, and she was not allowed to go on the bike for 6 weeks because you cannot go in that angle. So what we did, I said, maybe elliptico. You know elliptico? Mm-hmm. Is an option. So we tried. The sports doctor agreed, and she did 6 weeks, even with an altitude camp on Tenerife, on the elliptical. Well, she got on the bike. Within 1 week, she was okay. Otherwise, there was 6 weeks of nothing. So she would have needed 8 or 12 weeks to get back. And now she was fit. She only had to translate her fitness into cycling. It worked perfectly fine.
Yeah, great example of
so look for alternatives. What can I do?
When you're injured, look for alternatives. What can I do? Louis, final 2 top tips here. Top tip around nutrition. As you said, you've read around nutrition. It's an area of performance that matters so much. What's your top tip there?
Yeah, I mean, the problem a little bit with nutrition is that it is such a wide area. I mean, you can make it quite complicated, and I would say, try to eat periodized. And we do that on hard days. Intensity-wise, I put them full of sugar. But on days we have only endurance, for me, it's also okay to eat, let's say, more fat-oriented diet and to leave the sugar out. So to play a little bit with that. But I mean, that is quite complicated. And I think in the top level, you can do that. If you're on a lower level, I think the best tip is just eat healthy, whole food.
That's great.
And don't overdo it. What I see is that nutrition gets a little bit. For me, nutrition is nice. I like to eat, and I like to eat good, and it tastes good, etc. So don't make that too complicated, because your training, etc., is already complicated. You have to do so much, so don't make your nutrition too complicated. Whole food. Try to find what you like, and don't go in extremes either direction, too much or not enough.
Sounds sensible to me, Louis. And Louis, strength and conditioning. Top tip there.
Yeah, I think the higher the level, the more important it gets. So because you train more, the load is more, and so strength and conditioning for me is very important. But for that, you need a good strength and conditioning coach. I'm not an expert there. I'm very happy here in Sittard that we have 2 very, very good strength and conditioning coaches who also know our sport. They are from a handball background, but they are really interested in triathlon. So they can translate what they know about strength and conditioning into triathlon, they also work with cyclists a lot. And I think that is important. For me, I like the most about that is more the neuromuscular coordination part. So the strength part for me is not so interesting. So it's more about coordination. Yeah. For me, strength and conditioning is not directly to go faster, but that you can deal with the load.
Yeah, the resilience of the athlete.
Yeah.
All more training. Louis, it's a big day for you. It's a big week. You've got an athlete right now riding the Tour de France. You've got a multitude of athletes preparing for the Hamburg World Triathlon Series event this weekend, dubbed as the 2020 World Championships. Louis, final two questions. One, if you could boil everything you've learnt to date across your work in elite athletics, your work in elite cycling, road cycling, and, of course, elite triathlon into one piece of advice to help the listener of this show perform at their best, what is Louise Delahaije's top piece of advice going to be?
Then I probably would say, because we're in an endurance sport, be patient.
I like that.
I mean, adaptations in endurance sport, and I mean literally adaptations, physiological adaptation, but also mental adaptations, they just need time. And what we see also, especially in younger, they live by the moment. If today was a bad day, their career is over. But try to imagine for yourself, where will I be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month? So on the one side, yes, I know that you live today, but you also have to realize that it's endurance sport. You can have a long career.
So be
Annemiek van Vleuten is 37 years old, and she signed yesterday for 2 more years. So you can have a long career. And we are talking now about people that are 23 years old. If you like this, have fun. That's also probably very, very good advice. If you like what you do, you can have a very long career in endurance sport. So there will be moments that you are very successful, and there are moments that one way or the other, and sometimes we don't understand why, you will be underperforming. But in the end, if you're consistent, and I think that was also one of the main issues in your podcast with Joel, and I completely agree with him. If you are consistent in the end, it will happen, but you need patience. Be patient and have fun. In one sentence.
And have fun. Beautiful. Louis, every guest of the show, in this case, a Coach's Corner episode, issues the listener with a physical challenge for the week. So, what is Coach Louis?
Yeah, you told me that 1 hour ago, and but I think I go back to the beginning of my coaching career. And what we did then, myself and my colleague, he was actually the swimming coach of the junior squad I told you in the beginning of this podcast. And what we did is long endurance challenges. So you can make it as long as you want, but we did all combinations. My challenge would be go for a long time. That can be, for some people, it can be 3 hours, but we went to 8 or 9 hours. And we just combined, I just gave the possibilities we did. It was from rock climbing, horseback riding, swimming, biking, running, hiking, with or without backpack, etc., 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 etc. So now skating we did. Now you can do elliptical. So combine these things, have fun in one day, and it's an incredible good training session, and it's a nice challenge.
A long endurance challenge, but it doesn't have to be the one.
Yeah, and we combine like 3 things. So I remember we one time went for indoor climbing, and then we went with a mountain bike to a second place. It was also 2 hours, and then we did a run or a swim or whatever. And we did one time, and actually that was the hardest challenge we ever did, was biking, then horseback riding for, I think it was only 1 hour, and then running. But then we couldn't train for 1 week because of the muscles hurting like hell. But it's just, also it's a little bit alternative training. It's long, so also the mental aspect is important. Keep yourself busy with whatever you like, or what gets you out of your comfort zone. Depends on your goal.
So such a good challenge, the long endurance challenge. And might that be done once a year, once every 6 months, once a quarter, once a month?
We used to do this every, let's say, 6 weeks.
Wow.
And we, at that moment in time, we still do this also now in the training center, although we are 25 years later, because we are talking beginning of the 90s. But it were all juniors. So even boys and girls of, let's say, 16, 17 years were busy for 6-7 hours. And we stopped for food and whatever, but they have to deal with it themselves. They have to organize themselves. And nobody got overtrained, nobody got injured, all had fun, and they got to know a lot about themselves. It was always a nice experience. They had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, this is a first time in history of the Physical Performance Show, the Long Endurance Challenge. So if listeners take this on, Louis, where can they follow you, find out more about all that you're up to? Obviously, the focus is Tokyo 2021 on the other side.
I have a Twitter account and an Instagram account.
Yep.
Probably you can find it on my name.
And we'll tag that all up in the show notes too, Louis.
Perfect.
Louis, you've been very generous with your time. Is it a big week for you? So certainly thank you for your contribution to the show, and also very much value the touch points I've had with you over knowing each other in the last few years. I think you're an outstanding coach. From the sidelines watching on, you do model that coach that's there for the athletes, a listening ear and wise counsel.
Thank you. And it was my pleasure and an honor to be in your show.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust and I know you enjoyed Louis' sharings today. His experiences to date are quite extraordinary, and there are still so many chapters being written. Now, to follow Louis, jump over to the show notes, pogophysio.com.au/podcast, and there you will find Louis Delahaije's Instagram and Twitter social media handles. Do reach out and let Louis know what it was that you took away from his sharings. Keep the podsies coming over on social. They are a whole lot of fun. Tag in the show at Physical Performance Show. Follow along on Facebook at The Physical Performance Show. My handle at Brad_Beer. We love to hear from you, the listener of this show. A massive thanks to those leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes. And don't forget to hit subscribe to ensure each and every episode lands in your earbuds as they go live each and every Thursday. Don't forget to secure your ticket for the upcoming live stream event with Dr. Shona Hallison, the 24th of October, 3 to 6 p.m, with all registrants receiving a post-event recording. As Dr. Shona Hallison said on episode 190, the only training we are benefiting from is the training we are recovering from. So it is so important to understand the best way to structure our recovery in order to truly optimize our performance. To secure your ticket, jump over to pogophysio.com.au/Dr. Hallison livestream. A massive thanks, as always, to the great folk who make this show possible each and every week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design, and Lily Burden assisting behind the scenes. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, we change lanes and we catch up with Commonwealth Games race walking champion and Australian Olympic team member Jemima Montag, as she shares on her career highs, lows, and learnings. So until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.